Okay, so in today's video I have an unboxing of a pen I'm very excited for. This is one of Darrell from D Squared Arts pens, and if you saw recently I did an interview on him for the video interview section of the channel. It arrived today, so let's open it up and take a look. Okay, so as I said in the introduction, I just had my pen arrive from D Squared Arts, and if you haven't seen the interview with Darrell, I'll put a link in the description, but after doing the interview and then looking at his website, kind of preparing for that, I saw this pen there and I decided it was time. So let me get this opened up. Okay, so start. Okay, so throw the box aside. Plenty of packing material in here, which is always great. Okay, got a business card from Darrell, D Squared Arts, and once again, I'll put all the contact information in. And a little card. And y'all read that later, but that's just, Darrell, thank you for doing the interview and talking about the pen, so that's great. I'll, definitely like that. That shows the personal touch that you're going to get from ordering a pen. Now, you might not be doing an interview, but it seems like, this is a work of art that's going to be functional, and that's great to kind of have that experience like that. So, to start off, it's in this nice black cotton material with a gray liner, which perfect colors. But then here we go. So, and I already like this pen more than when I saw it. I didn't realize it's actually a squared body, which the pictures didn't show. It looked like it was rounded, but let me see if I can get this in the right camera. It's actually square. And then all of these individual grooves are hand put in there by Darrell when he sculpts these, because that's one thing that I really took away from his interview. Yes, this is a pen, but it's more of a sculpture than it is a pen, and that's really cool. And this color, let me see if I can show it best on this side camera, it's called White Ice, I think was the name. But you can see the ice and then the grays mixed in there, and then with the square and it's a very tactile pen, which, that's one thing that's great. And one thing that you will notice, and this was part of the interview, Darrell normally has more threads on his pen, so it does take a little bit more to take the cap off, but that's by design so that when he sculpts them, you don't have any kind of wiggle or variance. So, that might catch you off guard at first, but I knew that going in from seeing the pen that my local pen friend Lisa from Olive Octopus Ink picked up, and then talking to Darrell in the interview. All that being said, the way this section sits down, this actually sits really comfortably in the hand. The notch of at least how I hold my pen, the notch of the square is sitting right in the crook between my index finger and my thumb, and that actually feels very comfortable. And no, I'm very excited for this. So this comes with you can choose your size of JoWo nib, standard cartridge converter, but I'm actually not going to be using this nib. This is going to immediately be replaced with another package that just arrived. So I'm going to start by taking this out and setting it aside. This came yesterday, and I went on and opened it, but I still have it in the little vial. This is actually from Franklin Cristoph. It's ground by Audrey Matteson, the nib doctor on Instagram, and I'll put a link to her information in the video description as well. But this is the SIG, S-I-G, and it stands for, I just blinked at what it stands for. Stub Italic Gradient, I believe. So a different type of grind, and this is actually a 14 karat nib, and it started as an extra fine, so it's the SIG grind on an extra fine JoWo 6 14 karat nib. So I thought this would be the perfect pen for this to go in. Now, it looks like I might have to pull and swap around nib units, so let me do that real quick off camera so I don't waste anybody's time, and I will be right back. Okay, so I actually did not do anything yet. As I stopped the camera, I realized I was in such a rush trying to film this that I wasn't paying attention to what I had in front of me. So I was picking up the body, not the section, to screw the nib unit in. So the nib unit from the SIG, it's a standard Yovo 6, as you can see, does thread right in there like it's supposed to. So, if you've never done any of this kind of stuff on camera, it's easy to overlook the simple things because you're in such a rush assuming that something's going to go wrong. So, now, that being said, once I put this in there, that nib is a little crooked, so I'll reset it once I have it in the body so I have a little bit more leverage. But, that will fit right in there. Screws in. And now, let me go and fix this real quick just to be sure the feed is straight on so that when we fill it, it will write perfectly. And, there we go. So now that that's in there, let's go in and get this filled up. Let me clear this away. And I did, just a little note, I loved that Franklin Cristoph sends the nibs in this little vial like this. So it sits nib down in there, and just the single little packing peanut gives just enough friction to keep it from moving around. So that was a nice little touch in how they shipped their nib. Now, in terms of inking this, I was looking around at what inks I haven't used much lately, and this one caught my eye. One, because I wanted to show the bottle because I love the Ackerman bottles and how they work, and I think it'd be a cool blue to kind of accent the blue-grays in the body of this pen. So this ink is, like I said, is from Ackerman. I got this from Vanessa a while back, and this is the number 9. And I'm not going to even try and butcher the pronunciation, but essentially Oost Indigo. So it's going to be a dark indigo color. And just before I open this up, if you're not familiar with the Ackerman bottles, so it's got this ink chamber at the top, and then the main in the bottom, and you can see in here, there's actually a marble in there. And the marble will come out the top, but that's how you kind of, for filling, you tilt the bottle, get some ink up in the top. Well, the marble sits down in the little seam and holds ink in there while you fill, and then you can just tip the bottle, let the ink drain back down for storage, and it'll settle through and slightly drip. So very unique system. An Ackerman number 5 is actually the first ink bottle I ever bought in 2013, I think. End of 2013, beginning of 2014, over Christmas to New Year's break. So you just put make sure I can try and get this on this side camera so you can see it's standard cartridge converter. So once you have and I'm not putting it down in there far enough. Okay. Then you can kind of just wipe off the top of the nib on there. And then I just have one of the shop towels that I was talking about on one of the videos the other day that I like because they absorb ink really well, just to wipe off any little bit that's on the section there, and then the top of the nib. And just a note on the nib, the Franklin Cristoph logo looks really cool on there, and nice engraving, a good engraving on there, which is nice. I've seen Franklin Cristoph for years, and I saw that some of these gold SIG nibs popped up the other day, and I was like, be the perfect time. And I had also been thinking about getting this pen, so I bought these 2 individual items with the goal to be putting them together to have a new pen that I know I'm going to be using on a regular basis because of the tactile, and it's a new pen, and I did the interview with Darrell. And then also getting to try the nib ground by Audrey. There's a big following on one of the Ink Dependence Discord that I'm on. There's a couple people who have tons of these SIG nibs. They rave about them. So thought it was time to get one for myself and add it in. So let me grab some paper here, and we'll do a writing test. And I've never actually written with a SIG nib, so this will be my first experience with it as well. Okay, so I grabbed my Natsu pad here, and while I was doing this, I took a moment to read the letter that Darrell wrote, and I'm glad I did because he said the inspiration for this is actually turns out one of the first pins he ever carved. And I thought this kind of looked familiar, and when he said what it was, it immediately made sense. He said this was inspiration from one of his dad's screwdrivers. And my dad had a screwdriver like this, and my grandpa. I guess it was kind of the early way of wooden screwdrivers where they were square-ish, but then they had these, gouges kind of cut in on the corners so you could get good grip with your hand. And, seeing this, it was jumping my mind as to why does this pattern look so familiar, and that answers that perfectly. So just wanted to add that in. That's a neat little tidbit. And he said this is probably one of the styles he might not make again because of the square. So that makes this even more of a truly one of a kind unique piece, which I find awesome. So this is the Natsu dot grid pad that I've used before, and I just wrote on there D-scored arts, and it's called the Ice Cloud. I did have that in there, so. And I already love how this ink line is going down. And let me hold it over to this camera here. You can see the line variation even with just printing. It's a very unique it's just a different line variation that I actually really like. Ackerman number 9. With my handwriting style being mostly print, I didn't know exactly if this nib was going to be a perfect fit, but I think it's going to be great. And I should write that on here. So, first Yovo gold nib. And there is a little bit of variation you can pull out of there. I don't want to push too much because this isn't really designed to be a flex, but there's a little bit because the gold is softer. But so far, I really like this. Good crisp lines. So it's almost got a little bit of architect and a little bit of all of the above. So this is a great first impression. I'm really glad that I picked this up. One, just the look, that gold nib. I mean, look at that. That just looks so cool. And then this pen, between writing, I'm kind of sitting here just running my fingers along these little ridges, and it's a very tactile experience. And the picture only showed so much. This is even better now that I'm holding it in my hand. Darrell's going to be at the Chicago Pen Show, which is coming up, and on the stream from Olive Octopus the other day, someone was asking, and Lisa's request was that go see Darrell and Sean. They're sharing a table, Sean Newton, and pick up the pins and put your hands on them, because that's one thing Darrell said in his interview. He wants people to hold these pins. That's what they're meant for. And that's when you're truly it's gonna make sense of how this hand-carved type of pen, which is so unique, it's a unique feel that makes you want to hold it and write more with it. So I definitely look forward to putting this through its paces, the pen and the nib. And this is an ink that I haven't used in quite some time. It was sitting on the shelf of stuff to be swatched into my coloring. So it's one that was not done yet. So this is a great mixture of three things, two that are new and one that's almost new again because it's been so long since I've used it. So definitely very happy to have all this coming together to put to use. And just the pen, I mean, it looks great. I really like the grays and black color palette, and that subtle gray mixed in with that white. It really does look like a dirty icicle of sorts that's been hanging off the the roof or the back of your wheel or something, which is just cool. And then also having that note from Darrell telling you about the inspiration of this functional work of art and being able to relate to that from having seen those screwdrivers in the toolbox growing up and things like that is just really great to see. So, that is the D Squared Arts Ice Cloud pen and the Franklin Cristoph Sig grind by Audrey Matteson in extra fine with the Ackerman number 9 Oost Indigo. So definitely look forward to putting this to some use. Okay, so that's going to wrap up the unboxing of my D Squared Arts Ice Cloud pen and the accompanying gold Sig nib grind done by Audrey Matteson from Franklin Cristoph. I really look forward to putting this to some use, and I know I'm going to sit here having this pen on my desk all day, and I'm just going to be fidgeting with it because that's one thing Darrell said. He expects his pens to be held and felt and experienced, and I can definitely see why. So, very excited for this. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you can do me a favor and click subscribe, that would really help out the channel, and you can see new videos as they're released. And other than that, thanks for watching.